Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining me once again. It's about 10:40 on July 4th. I'm exhausted right now. I had a really tiring weekend, and I wasn't doing any school stuff. That's why I haven't made any videos. But I was doing just summer things and whatever. But I hit the books again today. I didn't get much sleep last night. I got maybe like 4 hours of sleep. Um, So I'm pretty whooped. As soon as I get done with this, I'm gonna be like crashing real hard. I'm tired. Um, but basically, I'm gonna keep it kind of shorter than the other ones today. Um, because like I said, I'm tired. So I'm gonna just talk a little bit about the assignments that um, I've been working on. The first one is the reading assignment, which I've mentioned it before, which I'm almost done with now. It's not due until next Monday, actually, but I'm going to try to get it knocked out early just to have it done. And the way that it worked out for me was actually pretty interesting because this week is actually Full Sail's summer break. So for my first week, I've actually got 2 weeks to do everything because of the holiday break. So the reading assignment and the worksheet that goes with it is due next Monday, which is really good. And each chapter has like the questions and stuff at the end, and that helps out with the worksheet a lot because you don't have to take notes and you don't have to like do the like define the chapter terms at the end of each one, but if you do, it makes the worksheet really easy. And I didn't know it, but the worksheet, you can actually answer the questions and then come back and they're already saved on the web page because the worksheet is an online thing. So when you change an answer, I guess it saves the page, and you're able to go by and do it section by section or however you'd like, because it's an open book worksheet essentially. But if you take your time and take your notes and define all the words and like really read everything in the book, then you can just blow through it. It's pretty easy so far. Um, right now, let's see. I think I've gotten to question 20 so far. I'm not sure how many questions are, but I've gotten up to question 20 um, as of right now. Uh, I'm assuming it's probably around 50 or so questions again, like the first kind of question thing I had to do with the orientation. But yeah, like I said, if you just take your time and really read the stuff and take it in and try to understand it, it makes the worksheet really easy. And so that's both of those are due next Monday. The next one is the podcast activity. And this is due not tomorrow, but the Tuesday after on the 12th. And I'm supposed to use GarageBand to make a podcast. And it doesn't look too hard at all, actually. Because you have to, there's a package on the activity page for the podcast, and it's called like the podcast assets. So if you have an activity that requires like a bunch of files to be downloaded, then they'll have a download link for the assets page. So download this file and it has a bunch of stuff in it, and it's got like the instructions and then the rubric and stuff like that, and in some cases like a tutorial video on how to upload something or how to create something. And I'm supposed to make a podcast that's at least 30 seconds in length but no longer than 2 minutes, and I have to cover like 8 different topics, and it says this podcast project requires you to write out a script and produce a biographical enhanced podcast, images and audio about yourself. So, I mean, all the stuff that's like about you or where you talk about yourself is pretty easy, no doubt. But I meant to write out my script and whatnot tonight, but like I said, I'm so tired. I ended up falling asleep instead, which believe me, the stuff is not boring, but I'm just really exhausted today because I've been going at it like all day reading. My brain is like fried from stuff. I read so much and took so many notes today. Um, but yeah, the stuff's not boring. I really like it. It's really interesting. Um, as far as the reading goes, I'll go back to that here in a second. But yeah, the podcast, I have to have at least 6 pictures. You have to write out a script. We're not supposed to talk too fast or make it too like robot-y and stuff. Like we're reading off of something. And then of course they always have you're supposed to save it and name the file a certain way, and create a zip file to upload it, and all this stuff. And we have to use GarageBand to make the podcast. You have to use GarageBand. So, like with all these assignments, it's, I guess, really a way to introduce all the technology. If you've never used a Mac before, or even if you have, to go back and check out some of the new features, because I've never made a podcast with GarageBand before. So all the activities are pretty, it all fits together really well. I'm loving it so far. And yeah, the textbook chapters, like I said, they're actually really interesting. I like reading this stuff. And yeah, you have to enter a password to get into your textbook. And I've got this app on the iPad that lets me open up PDF files and stuff like that. And I tried to put the textbook on the iPad, but it wouldn't let me because it has to. It requires a password. And basically, the first chapter was about computer history and basics, and that's just what it is. It talked about like old school computers, like um, the EDSAC computer, UNIVAC, if you've ever heard of that stuff, like the huge computers that weren't even really computers. They were like pulleys and gears and crazy stuff. They weighed like tons of pounds and used like 300,000 vacuum tubes and all this crazy stuff. And then it gets into the more digital computer stuff, and it talks about computer language and stuff, like how it started with B, the language, and then it developed into the C programming language, and then C++, and goes from there. And talks about the different computers, uh, different parts of a computer, kind of how they work, just a general understanding, base knowledge of computers. And I actually, this past year, my 12th grade year, I took a computer programming class, but yeah, I learned more from reading this one chapter than I did that whole year in computer programming. It's kind of sad, actually. But yeah, that was the first chapter. The second chapter was actually chapter 3, the nature of sound, and this is probably my favorite part of the week 1 reading assignment. Like I really was interested in learning about how sound works, and it talks about how our ears work, and the eardrums and the little bones that are in there, the hammer, anvil, and stirrup, and the cochlea, and all this stuff. And oh god, the decibel system is Jesus. It's so confusing. I guess the biggest thing to remember about the decibel system is that, like, if you see it on a graph, it's an exponential graph. So that's the biggest key to the decibel system, is it's exponential. And like 0 decibels is actually not silence. It's like a starting point. Like -1/4 decibels is actually silence, I do believe. And then like for every 3 decibels added, it's like double the sound power. So even if you have like 40 decibels, you go up to 43, it's double what 40 was. So, like it's so confusing. Like I'm probably gonna have to go back and learn it again. And then yeah, so it talks about that, and then also the math behind it, how to find wavelength and frequency, and using logarithms and stuff. Uh, it talks about phase and did the different waveforms of sound. And then just the bass stuff. Yeah, I thought the third chapter was really interesting, or chapter 3 was really interesting. And then the one I'm on right now is chapter 4, The Nature of Light. I'm probably a good 3/4 of the way done with this chapter. I've only got about 2 pages left before I get to like the study guide and the chapter terms. And it's been talking about how light is, like a particle and a wave, and like how the colors work and stuff like that. I'm not going to really get into it because I still don't quite understand it just yet. Um, but yeah, for me, the whole light is a lot harder than understanding sound. So that's kind of what the reading's been about. And then I've also got access to my week 2 assignments right now, but I haven't touched those just yet. So I'm gonna try to finish the week 1 stuff first, obviously. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna probably go ahead and end the video right here. I just thought I'd talk a little bit more about what the assignments were. I'd mentioned it, but I hadn't really gone into it. Tomorrow, I'll do what I said I was going to do last time and talk about the different tab buttons, I guess, from the online platform thingy. It's really not that interesting. I think the content of the class is way more interesting than the platform itself, but, we'll see what happens. I don't know what I'm going to feel like talking about. We'll see. But, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Any questions, let me know. I'll get back to you. And if it's a question I can answer through a comment, I'll do that. But if it's like it requires a little bit more intricate answer, I'll get it in the video. But yeah, I'm about to re-render this video, upload it, and then I'm off to bed because I'm wiped. So yeah, happy 4th of July, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.